Okay, the year's 1977. I'm a 7-year-old little bitty kid, and Eastdale Mall in Montgomery, Alabama has just opened. I walk into this place not long after it has opened. There's an arcade in here. It's called Aladdin's Castle. I'd never seen an arcade before in my life. The most video games I had ever seen at this point was probably, I don't know, maybe two at the 7-Eleven that was around the corner from my dad's office that I would sometimes walk around to get candy from when I was a little kid. So I walk into this Aladdin's Castle and they have all these games. And I am somehow drawn, I don't know how, to this Flying Ace game, which came out in 1973. Again, it's 77. I play this thing, I don't even know what I'm doing. Eventually, though, after playing it several times over the course of the following months, I learned how to play the game, and I can always get one of the little tokens that comes out of the bottom of the game if you shoot down enough planes. I can't remember how many you had to shoot down, but like most games back in this time, it was back in this era, I should say, it was a time-based game. You know, you put your quarter in, you got to play for, I don't know, 60 seconds, a couple of minutes, something like that, and you just tried to do as much damage as you could in the time you had allotted to play the game. The joystick that you see in the picture simply allowed you to maneuver the photograph, which that's all this was. There's no computer graphics here. It's just a rolling film that's turning around as you play. It allows you to move, and you can see it being done on the game. The plane into your sights, you see the tracers. You're just hold down the machine gun bar the whole time. You don't run out of bullets or anything, and then the planes go down in flames. But it was kind of cool, that little token popping out at the bottom after you got done each time. And I still have a couple of them, and I had a bunch of them at one time. It's interesting. My mother, to just give you a quick story, my mother found these tokens when I was in high school. This would have been about, I don't know, 10 years or so after I had gotten them. So I'm a teenager now, 16, 17 years old, somewhere around in that range. My parents decided to get the carpet in the house replaced, okay? So they pull all the old carpet out. There was also a bookshelf that was built into the wall of my bedroom. My mom decided it was permanently mounted to the wall. She decided to take that out and get rid of it, just remove it. And kind of a remodel, I guess. And so when the bookcase is pulled out, bam, there's two of these little tokens that somehow got slipped behind there somehow. And I'm like, wow, neat, you know. And from that point on, I always kept them. So that's how I still have two of these to this day. But this game, it was so fun. I just got to give a shout out to Ken Gunther. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right. Ken is the one who owns this machine you see in the video. He said I could use his video in my video, and he was also kind enough to send me these new photographs so I could use them. Very nice guy. Thank you so much, Ken. There will be a link to Ken's YouTube channel in the description. He believes that he owns one of the few remaining working copies of this old game that was made, again, back in 1973. And for a while, I loved to play this. Didn't get to go to the arcade much, but whenever I did, I always loved to play this Flying Ace game. And that's why it's my very first favorite arcade game. Let's move on. Okay, Space Invaders. All right, now this game came out in 1978, but I would say I started playing it a little after it came out, probably 79 into 1980, and I was obsessed with this game. I was so hopelessly hooked. I thought about it all the time. It was always in the back of my mind. Any of y'all remember the department store TG&Y? I always heard it was called Toys, Games, and Yo-Yos. That was short for, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I always heard. But one of the many department stores that were around back in those days, and we would occasionally shop there. Well, lo and behold, they had a Space Invaders machine right there at the front of the store past the registers. And I would always ask for my mom for a quarter to play Space Invaders, and she would always say no. But she never was a big fan of me putting money in these games. But they had one. Back in those days, it seemed like arcade games were everywhere. I mean, convenience stores had them, restaurants. often had some. It was just crazy. I mean, they were stuffed into corners everywhere. Anyway, we go to Disney World in 1980. My mom takes my older brother, myself, and I have an older cousin. She was in high school at the time, and we all go to Disney World. And it seemed like in the Magic Kingdom in those days, arcade games were everywhere. They would have them in the gift shop. They would have them, I mean, they're all over the place. And all I wanted to do was play Space Invaders. I mean, of course, you know, you couldn't play it all the time, even though I didn't have the money, and my mom certainly wouldn't give me the money. But I thought about it all the time. And the hissing sound from the cannon, pss, pss, you know, that when you play the game, I would literally feel like I would hear that in the distance. That or the thumping of the game, boom, 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 you know. And a lot of times it would just be my friggin' imagination. I was so obsessed. But occasionally it would get louder, and I realized it was real, and there was actually a Space Invaders cabinet close by. She turned us loose in this arcade that was inside the Disney World Hotel, and it was one of the biggest arcades I'd have ever seen in my life. I mean, they literally had rows of games. I mean, there was like 5 Space Invaders in a row lined up, you know, so they just had tons of stuff. And she turned us loose in there, and we had an absolute ball. It was a lot of fun. But Space Invaders, I would say it what led to my older brother and I getting an Atari 2600 for Christmas in 1981. Because it was still a hot game, and of course that was the game that put the 2600 on the map with Atari when they got the rights to Space Invaders. But man, this game, it was in my mind. I could not stop thinking about it when I was a kid, and that's why it's the number 2 on this list of my all-time faves. Okay, Galaxian. This was the game that kind of dethroned Space Invaders. Now, I still played Space Invaders, but let's face it, Galaxian was basically Space Invaders on steroids. I mean, first off, you've got full color, man. Color enemies, and listen to the background sound. It's just that humming noise. These games, when you think back to the early 80s, the thump, thump, thump. I mean, Space Invaders did that, Asteroids did that, but a lot of these games had just the background noise. Centipede, boom, boom, boom. I mean, and it was just so cool. I mean, it was just such a really cool time for arcade games. But the sound effects really stick into your mind. You never forget them. But anyway, I was never great at this game either. I mean, if I was lucky, I could clear the screen off twice. I had a bad habit of getting pinned into the corners, and I would get destroyed when all the enemies just overwhelmed me. But this game, I remember, and I actually found it. It made the newspaper. It wasn't about the game, but they took a picture of a guy playing it, and at the arcade. It was at Aladdin's Castle in East Del Mall. And I remember, though, when I saw this in the paper, my friend Chad from next door was sitting there, and I said, "Hey, man, this is my new favorite game." And anyway, it's a lot of fun, and I have fond memories of it. You know, you would think, now, basically, Galaxian was the forerunner to Galaga. Everybody says that. You know, Galaga was just, the same thing, just with a lot more features, and you get double ships and all that. You would think that the next favorite would be Galaga. That would seem like it would be the natural way of things, but it didn't turn out that way. Now, in 1981, a new kind of game came along. You know, everything had been shoot 'em up, shoot 'em down, Space Invaders, space. Well, we had a thing called a platformer that was invented. Now, I don't know if Donkey Kong was the original platform, but it was definitely the one that's remembered as having the most impact. I don't think anybody would ever question that. And once I played this game, I was obsessed and hooked. I just could not get enough of it. And I didn't get to go to the arcade much, like I've said before. I mean, it was rare that I got to play these games at the arcade. But anyway, I'm going to tell you a story just to show you how crazy I was as a kid, how obsessed I was. I'm going to bring up a map here. Okay, this is a picture of my house that I got off of Google. This is where I lived when I grew up. I know it's a long driveway. You can't see it really, but Okay, now I'm gonna bring up a picture of a gas station that it's no longer open. It's been closed for a long time, I think. But back in the early '80s, not long after Donkey Kong came out, this place was called Hungry Henry's. That was the name of the convenience store. It sits in front of a mobile home park on U.S. Highway 231, which we commonly refer to as the Troy Highway, because the city of Troy is about 40 miles south of Montgomery. So everybody in Montgomery always refers to that as the Troy Highway. You know. Okay, now I'm going to bring up a map of the distance between where a house where I grew up and Hungry Henry's. Now, you can see if you one way it's over 3.5 miles. So I basically decided, you know, I found out they had a Donkey Kong machine inside Hungry Henry's. Oh man, you know. So I decided one day, I'm not sure if this was during the summer or it was on a Saturday, you know, school's out. I decided I was going to walk up there and play Donkey Kong. You know, now, first thing I imagine, some of y'all thinking, you dummy, didn't you have a bicycle? Yes, I had a bicycle, but I already knew I was taking a big chance and I was going to get busted for doing this. There's a good chance I was going to get caught. But if I got caught riding a bicycle on a major 4-lane highway with 18-wheelers and cars going 60, 70 miles an hour flying around, that was a lot worse than if I just simply walked, you know, on the shoulder several feet off of the road, you know. So it wouldn't look as bad if I got caught, if you follow what I'm saying. So that's why I didn't use my bicycle. You know that old saying, it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. That kind of is how this was going. Well, I made the hike up there, and I did play. I remember there was this kid that was a little older than me. His name was Dale Weeks. He happened to come up there. He lived in the trailer park, and you know, and he watched me play, and we kind of just chit chatted a little bit. And anyway, I was already getting nervous though. I'd been there. I mean, it took a long time just to walk up there. So after only playing a few times, I was thinking I got to get back home. You know, if they're looking for me or they're wondering where I am. You know, because we lived out in the country, but usually my mom could come out the back door and just scream out real loud for us. And if we were way back behind the house or something, we would hear it and we would go home. So, you know, they were going to be getting worried. So naturally, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, okay, how much longer can I stay here? I'm going to get in trouble if they're looking for me. So I went ahead and got out and walked back home, and sure enough, I got busted. And I don't know how much trouble I got into. I can't remember. It could have been too bad. I don't think my old man beat me or anything. Gave me a spanking or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. But my dad, you know, he's in his 80s now, and he will still tell this story if it ever comes up. You know, but he always gets the name of the game wrong. Instead of calling it Donkey Kong, he calls it Monkey Kong. You know, yeah, that dumbass walked 5 miles just to play Monkey Kong. But yeah, that's how obsessed I was. That's how crazy I was that I would walk basically about a 7-mile round trip just to play Donkey Kong a few times. All right, Cubert. Real popular game, but at the same time, I always felt like it was a little bit underrated. I think a lot of people were turned off by the controls just because they were so different. Most games, your joysticks go up, down, left, right, whereas Cubert, it was diagonal, so it was just different. It took some getting used to. My buddy Jim showed me how to play this game. He was really good at it. Another thing Jim was good at, he could solve a Rubik's Cube. I'm talking about really solve one, not just take it apart like I did and like every other kid did back in the day. He could also solve those knockoff cubes, all the other ones that came out afterwards. He was a real smart kid. But he showed me the ropes on this thing, and I got really good at this game. I could get all the way to level 5 sometimes, which is pretty darn good considering I didn't get to go to the arcade very often. It was the thing about this game that really stands out to me is I love the sounds. You drop the coin into the cabinet, the little ding sound you get, the sound of Cubert when he gets hit on the head with one of the red balls, the crushing sound when he gets caught by the snake. And I love the countdown. You get the green ball, it freezes the screen for a few seconds, and you get the countdown. It sounds really cool.
And finally, I can't stand those green guys, the little goblin things. I don't know what you call them. They come from the top, and they reverse all your work. I mean, you'll just about be done, flipping all the colors on the pyramid, and here they come. They, drop down and they start reversing everything. Little bastards. I couldn't stand them. But anyway, this is such a cool game. It's hard to play. I'm playing it with of course, on MAME, but I'm using a PS4 gamepad, and it takes some getting used to. There's just something about that joystick at the arcade that would just, once you got used to playing it, it just felt natural. I've never felt that way ever playing this on any console over the years, whether it be the Atari 2600, the ColecoVision, whatever. I played it, I had fun, but it just didn't seem the same as the arcade. But still, nevertheless, great game.
Go in peace.